Okay,
No worries.
so we're sitting here at Urana on the Heart to Heart walk.
Yeah, you've blown in.
I have blown in.
Call you a lilo. Lob in, lob out.
That's
No.
it. That's us.
I was actually doing the starters thing on my phone, and I may have said something about the beautiful O'Brien family who've come, because you've just come in and blended.
Yeah.
It's not been difficult.
No, it's felt like we've come home in a way to our family, which, and we've, briefly known each other. But
You're gonna make me cry already.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been a while
Yeah.
though. It's been crazy. I think the girls have felt so comfortable.
Yeah.
And I've just loved that you have all just embraced them. And my dad, my dad, 87, coming out with us all. And yeah, he's just sort of, typical Tom, fitted in the way he does with the stories. And
But that's kind of thinking about, sitting here in this beautiful setting with our hot debrief fire, which I love. And I think that who we all are and the reason we've blended and got along so well is because we share a really shit time.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to say it nicer.
no,
Because I know, and you know, and your girls, I had some beautiful chats with them last night.
yeah.
It's so shit.
Oh, it's horrific.
And the hardest part, I don't know about you, sitting here, I was thinking, I don't want to betray my beautiful husband because they are the ones that feel shame
Absolutely.
and blame for what's happened.
Yeah.
And I don't blame him at all.
No.
I blame the lack of supports, the lack of hierarchy support, the bullying of inspectors,
The lack of early intervention
and no support.
and the intentional looking the other way,
Yeah.
and the corrosive culture that exists
Yep.
around it all. Absolutely. And I know when I was advocating incredibly strongly with all of the insurance companies and the employers and all of the stuff that you have to go through, and I literally broke down one day, and I said to whoever was on the other end of the phone, I really resent you forcing me to talk about my husband this way.
Yeah.
This is an incredibly capable, dynamic, compassionate, intelligent man.
Yep.
And this injury and the processes we have to go through are only ever focused on the damage the injury has done to him, to his cognition, to his capacity, to his emotional depth and connection with everyone that he loves. And I resent having to speak about him like that's the sum of him.
Yeah.
Because it's an enormous part right now. But there is so much more to the people that we love that are inflicted with this injury. But your world becomes the injury, and it weaves its way around everyone and everything in your life.
Yes.
Till it becomes difficult to separate the injury and the impact and the pain from
The people. Yeah.
I mean, I find it hard to detach myself from my pain. I know my girls sometimes look at me and I don't think they can see mum from the pain.
No.
And I
they're
hate that for them
young.
too.
But they're so young.
Yeah.
And, that they won't understand that our men that we chose to have the rest of our life with and have as our other person, our rock, our love, in so many ways, we've lost them.
Yeah.
And we'll never have them back the way they were before this injury.
No.
And is my husband still a strong, capable man? Yes.
Yeah.
Is he the same strong, capable man before? No.
No, and I think that's one of the you're going to get me now.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the griefs that's so complex in this, which I know it's there, and I connect with it sometimes, and it touches me now.
Yep.
But I know it's a grief that I'm yet to process and go through, because at the moment we're still at that point where you're holding them alive and holding them with you and healing.
Yep.
But I know that there is a grief coming, and that is the loss of the man I married and the man I fell in love with, because as much as there are elements of him that are still there, he is forever changed. I'm forever changed.
Yeah.
The girls are forever changed. You know, my parents, his parents, you know, our friends. The legacy and depth and reach of this insidiousness is just so enormous. But the loss of the people we fell in love with and chose to spend our lives with is real. And, you know, everyone sort of, I know we'd go to social events and everybody go, oh, Matt's so good. And I'm like, yeah, you saw him for an hour. You didn't see the 3 hours it took to get him here. You weren't there for the next 2 days as he fell apart and processed and was hypervigilant, and we were on eggshells, and what it took for that moment of normalcy that you saw is not the reality that we live with. And I've lost part of my husband, and I have to find a new way of being with this new man that's coming back to us. This walk is giving him back, but it's giving us a new dad and a new husband.
A new and improved.
Yes, I think it will be. In the end, I think it will be, but that loss is still real.
And it's never going to be the same, and it's never going to be the journey and the plan that we had.
No.
And we have to, I think, do you know, it kind of upsets me, because I think we're going to grieve forever.
Yeah.
I don't think there's going to be an end of that time of grieving. There's never going to be, oh, good, it's all back.
Yes,
it's always going to be an element of difference and an element of struggle. But I keep going back to the same thought. I love my husband to the end of the world.
Yeah.
And I always, always will. I'm still so angry at the system for what they did to him in changing him and changing him in front of my children who can't process it.
No.
My children, like yours, are hideously traumatized by this. We can't afford for them to all go to psychologists.
No.
And they're adults now, so they can't afford it either.
No.
So we've been dumped. Coming on the walk for the first time in the police family, I feel worthwhile. It's hideous that it's taken.
Oh, the abandonment.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, when I think about this conversation we're having now, and the number of times throughout the last 3 years of all of this, that someone on the other end of the phone will say, and Matt's so lucky to have you by his side. And I think, how dare you use my capacity that is dwindling and nearly killing me? How dare you use that as your own comfort for the bullshit that you're perpetrating on my family? Because that is not okay, and it's not okay to treat our husbands and our wives and our partners and our dads and our loved ones the way this system is, and think that it's okay because they've got someone strong that loves them. I'm not strong out of choice. I'm strong out of, you know,
desperation, out of no chance
to do.
No.
If I'm not, I lose him.
And that's not an option.
You know, I'm strong out of necessity.
Out of nothing else that we can do. We can't do anything else.
No.
I'm lucky in that I've got a very, very close girlfriend who sees Stephen as different. And so it validates to me and other people who see him that he's different. And it's okay that he's different. It's just different. So I need to adjust to the different. But it sucks.
It does.
Because I don't want him to be this different.
No, absolutely. And you have these, you know, you enter your life together and you make plans and you make choices together and you move in ways that give you the future that you're working towards, and then suddenly,
bang,
out of nowhere comes this, you know, this life-shattering
change
and injury that just blows the entire thing up. And, you know, you spoke about it earlier, the guilt that I've seen in Matt in not being the father he wanted, and, you know, his injury limiting the capacity that we had built to give our girls the choices and the futures that they hoped and dreamed, and the vulnerability that we now sit with economically, financially, emotionally, all of those things because of this. No matter how hard we've worked, it gets ripped away, and the system just goes, well, we'll just patch you up a bit, kick you further down the road, and you know,
You'll be right now.
you'll be right now. You're not our problem. And I mean, you know, 7 years, you should be right now. You're done. You can move on now. We've given you all that we can. And you just think, hang on, we're still living with this. This is lifelong. This is, you know, and I think also knowing the fact that, you know, the girls that know that Matt was suicidal, know that he had a plan, what the legacy that leaves for them is that suicide idealisation is so much more likely to be part of their life. How I get so angry at that. I think, how dare these systems and these professionals know that that's the case and have
allow
done
it
so little to prevent it. And, you know, the girls were offered 8 psych sessions in 3 years. But that's more damaging than good, because they don't even have the comfort and confidence
They don't
to
have
even
the relationship with someone to then get help.
No, they don't. And it's so tokenistic. And you think, how can you know all of this and still make that financial choice to do so little?
I mean, my kids were too old.
Yeah, right. Wow.
So the twins were 18 when we moved out of Cooma.
Yeah.
So they're adults.
Yeah.
Over 16. You know, there is no care factor from the force. And, you know, when Stephen went off work, from the day he went off work, not one single person messaged me, rang me from the police force to say, how are you? Never
more X than an X. It's like it's contagious. We can't reach out to them. We can't speak to them because we might catch it, and that might make us culpable if we show any level of compassion. Then our culpability may be increased. No, it won't. It just actually makes that person and that family feel seen. Feel validated and cared for. Yep.
Did I tell you I wrote a 5-page letter to the Commissioner of Police?
Wow, what did that get you?
Well, the Commissioner of Police at the time was in Stephen's small class.
Oh, wow.
So he knew Stephen personally. Spoken at events we'd been to, knew him by name, by his nickname, knew who he was. So I wrote 5 pages of typed.
Yeah, wow.
What had happened, what happened to our family. Was absolutely in tears to this guy who was his assistant, I guess. And then a few weeks later, I got a 2-sentence reply from his assistant saying, now that Stephen's claim has been accepted, I hope you move on with your life.
Yeah. Like the claim acceptance is the final end date,
like it's
and
wonderful.
point. Like it means anything like that. Often to get to the point of an accepted claim means that you've had even further damage and destruction. It has been, I mean, I know Matt became suicidal many times throughout that process after we'd spent 9 months getting him past his most critical moment. And you think you're then in that system of care, and it actually is even more corrosive and destructive. The end date of an accepted claim is often just the beginning.
It's the start of
the healing.
Yeah.
Not the end.
We had one psych who said to me, I was sitting there and he was triggering Stephen.
Yeah, they all
because he had to.
Yeah.
It was his job. He was triggering Stephen, so I put my hand on Stephen's leg. He held my hand and I said, it's all good. Yeah. That's all I said. And he goes, and you can be quiet.
Wow.
And I looked out the window and I just stared out the window, desperately trying not to scream, jump across the table and slap this man.
Yeah.
And I just sat there, and Stephen thought I was going to hit him, which was quite funny. I've never shown violence. And then at the very end he goes, oh, so Mrs. Hopkin, have you got anything you'd like to add? And I looked at him and I said, well, in what regard? As if anything I've got to say is anything important to
Yeah,
you.
you've denied me the capacity
Yeah.
to comfort my husband in his most
And now you want me to
difficult
say
time.
something?
Yeah, what do you want me to say?
So I let him have it.
Yeah.
I said it's not
Lovely.
personal. It's not personal against you. I know what
Yeah.
you're doing, but you're triggering this man that I love. You're
Yeah.
triggering him. You're upsetting him. You are taking him somewhere you told me you're not going to treat him.
Yeah.
So you're just going to screw my husband up, and then I have to take him home.
That's right. And then
and deal with him.
then our children and I have to
We
deal with
have
all
to
of
deal
this.
with this now.
We're not professionals.
No.
We just love deeply and immensely, but love is not enough in these circumstances. And yeah, I found that process so hideous. You know, you need to sit there and support your person through those examinations and
8 of them.
questions, and they're hideous. They are so hideous. And you know, I was hearing things in Matt, as I'm sure you did with Stephen, but you know, I was hearing things that Matt never wanted me to know
No.
about what he'd done and what he'd seen, and how it played on him and tormented him.
Yeah.
And you have to sit there and not only listen to that and have your heart completely yet again for the 100th time ripped from your soul because you're so devastated that that is what the person that you love. It's
Has
another
endured.
layer of knowing of what they live with, which is just so hideous. And then you've got to somehow put that aside and not let that erode you,
Yeah.
so that you can love them and hold them after this, because they put you in your car and send you on your merry way, and then months later they go, oh no,
We didn't think
we didn't think it was that much.
No.
It's not that bad. I think you'll be okay with this. Off you pop.
Yeah.
And you just think, hang on, where's the do no harm in
Yeah.
this? Where's the ethical, moral positioning of this system? You know, Matt spent months and months in treatment. Those people are best placed to make an assessment of his injury, not someone that comes in for an hour, triggers the hell out of someone. I remember for many of the incidences, because we were doing a lot of ours through COVID, so we're having to do
Yeah.
in our home. I mean,
Oh.
that was horrific. In our home.
Yes.
I nearly feel like torching our lounge, because
Yeah.
what we've sat with on that lounge, sometimes I look at it and think I'm just going to take you into the backyard and just set you on
Yeah.
fire.
We'll come.
Yeah.
We'll stick it in the
Yeah,
little pot
we'll
and
burn
debrief.
marshmallows and we'll
Yep.
just burn it in the backyard. But you know, Matt would sit there with a bucket next to him, because we knew that he would get to a point where he would vomit.
Yeah.
Because of what was coming. And I just think, you know, in an hour, you make Matt go to places that's taken him 6 months
To get
with
out
a
of.
therapist to process and even start to mention, and yet there you are,
Yeah.
just dredging all of this back so you can tick a box.
Yeah.
It's so barbaric. And
I had a psychologist say to me at one stage, who was treating Stephen, and I saw her just to get some comfort.
Yeah.
And I was crying, and she said, "Why are you crying?"
yeah, wow.
Because my financial family, my husband, my love, my whole world is imploding in front of me,
Yeah.
and I'm powerless and worthless
yeah.
to do anything about it.
Yeah, the choices you have to make as mum and
Yeah.
as wife and is just so cruel, so cruel. I know
We are
yeah.
worthless.
Yeah, absolutely. I know the girls will be stronger humans and with deeper compassion and greater understanding and empathy and kindness for their fellow man through all of this, and I know it will make them richer people. But what a way to learn those things. They could have been great people without this, but you've got to find
You got to find
you've
the
got to
positives.
find the good in this, and I know that will be one of the amazing things that will come from this for them.
Oh,
And their ability to advocate and stand
Yes.
for themselves with purpose and fight for their dad and fight for what's right has been extraordinary. But you know, there's been so many times when Matt's been triggered and imploding in front of us, and the girls are witnessing this, and you try and be that buffer between, first of all, their behaviours and their loud music or their comments, whatever it is that becomes a trigger. So you try and be the buffer between the daily life and grind that is then a trigger to you don't know what will come. And then you try and be the buffer between the triggered moment in their dad and the pain and the fear and everything that comes with that, so that they don't witness it and they don't feel it.
Yeah.
Because you know that's not him, and you know that's not what he wants them to see of him, and you know that that's damaging to them. And then you're trying to hold him as well, and who do you hug first, and who do you go to, and how do you make that choice in those moments of everyone that you love and that you hold most dear in the most excruciating agony of their lives in front of you, and you just disappear in that. Like,
And who hugs you?
who hugs you?
Yeah.
And I hope, I think one of my personal fears is, that I hope the girls know that every time I chose Matt, I was choosing them first.
Yes. They actually do.
Yeah, because I know I left them in immense pain to really do it on their own, while I had to hold Matt so that he would stay alive with us.
Yeah. They do know, because I had chats with them.
Yeah.
And that's the good thing about being here. And I'm disappointed that right here my kids aren't here,
Yeah.
because my kids and your kids would have blast together,
Yeah, they would. Yeah.
because they are like-minded people.
Yeah.
And
Oh, the love
it's a
that
bit sad that trauma
bonds you.
joins people.
I know, but
no one else
I've
gets it.
instantly loved you from the moment I met you. And that's because we've walked our own journeys, and different but the same.
Yeah.
And
Different in the situations,
yeah,
but the pain.
absolutely.
How many times have you wanted to just run madly screaming
Yeah.
into a corner
Yep. Absolutely.
and howl?
Yep. Oh,
Yeah.
I've lost count. Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
it's an understanding that is comfort.
Yeah, absolutely. And you don't even have to speak. I think that's the thing. We can just
look at each other.
Just look at each other and be, and just know that understanding, that deep understanding is there. That I've just that has just been the most extraordinary experience for me, and I think also for having you is like the girls and I joke that that you're the walk mum.
Yeah.
And to know that you're here, supporting, our dad and our husband, through all of the, the tiring, challenging moments on the walk, has just been so beautiful, and just, it's just been such a breath, I think, really, for us to know that, that someone that gets it and gets our experience, but also gets Matt's experience, because you've also had that journey.
And Matt has been able to tell me when he's struggling.
Yeah, I've loved that.
Which I've been so grateful for, because you get lost.
Yeah.
And the younger people, my moment is always when I think about the younger families. 3 days ago, a young police officer took his life.
Yeah.
He'd been 6 months.
Yeah, I know.
And his family have now got to deal with all of that.
Yeah.
And I know that improvements will happen, but they're not happening quick enough.
No.
Because I don't want families to have that pain and that trauma and that loneliness and the isolation of a family that said they were a family.
Yeah.
That are not.
No, I know.
Our family are now the broken ones.
Yeah. And I think for me, it is that it's to make our experience, it can't have been for nothing. Like,
no.
We can't have nearly lost Matt. Our girls can't live with the legacy of what they're still living with today. We cannot have been in this amount of pain and just absolute destruction for so long for it not to mean something. And what it must mean is that the next family don't walk this path with this pain. They land more gently,
Yep.
with greater
Support.
access to support, with greater understanding.
With it's not hard. It's psychological support.
Yep.
Are we not worth it?
Oh, I
Is
know.
that money too much?
I know, but what's the cost? That's the thing that always, when I've been, speaking to ministers and shadow ministers and, all the people in the insurance companies and all the people that sit in these workers' compensation systems, because
Who have no idea.
I've rallied and I've spoken and I've rung and I've written, and I am not going quietly. And I am making noise. And when I do that, you always hear somewhere in that conversation, well, first of all, you get the, I'm so sorry. And I'm like, I don't, if one more person tells me how sorry they are for my situation, when they sit in a position of capacity and authority and responsibility, I think I could be held liable for physical assault. I get so angered by
Don't be
this
sorry, do
mindless,
something.
meaningless apology. Don't do something. Take my story, take my pain, and make it not happen to the next soul. But they always come back to the costings.
Yeah.
And I'm like, so everything sits in Treasury and has to be budgeted. But at what cost? This family that have now lost their person, there's been 4 suicides by police officers since this walk started.
Yeah.
At what cost?
And they're only the serving ones.
They're only the serving ones that we know about. They're not the ones that have retired. They're not
How
the
many
ones
have
in
gone
workers'
off with PTSD?
Absolutely. They're not the volunteers. How do we capture these numbers so we know? And at what cost? Because I don't think it matters the financial cost if it is the loss of my husband and your husband and our children's father and the people that have taken their lives, that have
How much
their
is
families.
is too much for them
cost?
to
Why should it be our cost to bear because our loved ones chose to serve, protect and care for people every day? And I still don't, I truly don't believe that, and I'm sure, you've met so many people on this walk, and whenever I'm out talking, I'm, obviously while Matt's on this walk, one of the first things that comes up is my husband's in a 3-month walk across Australia for first responder mental health. And without fail, every single person goes, oh, my cousin's in the job, or my sister or my best friend is a nurse, or my dad was a policeman, or everyone has a connection.
And through these country communities.
Oh, incredibly.
They have triples. They have so many.
Yes, they wear several hats. Yeah, so it's, I think, every household, everyone has a connection to a first responder, and I don't think anyone wants them to have this experience when their service hurts them. I think everyone expects proper care that I expted, but it's just not there.
You don't expect to come out of this
worse than when you entered.
You went in.
Yep. I think that's been probably, I thought the worst moment would be Matt telling me he was taking his life and that he didn't think he could stop himself from ending his life. I thought that was going to be the worst moment, and me holding him and getting him the help to keep him with us and keep him alive. I thought that was the worst moment. How wrong and deluded I was, because our worst moments were yet to come, and our worst moments started when we made a claim for workers' compensation for workplace psychological injury. It's been 2.5 years of utter hell.
Yep.
Hell that you could not imagine, that you would not fathom. And the fact
the
that
blame
you
to someone else. It's someone else's
responsibility. The fact that you treated like a liar, like a fraudster, this whole manipulation, I couldn't comprehend that. And I think, my husband is Matt, he is. He's and Stephen's the same, and everyone on this walk, they are good people. They are
caring, honest,
with incredible integrity.
Yeah.
And I was so angered that Matt's injury and the causation of his injury would be questioned to the point where we felt like we were lying cheats. How dare you look at his honourable service? Look at the man. How dare you?
The time that they've spent.
Yeah.
Stephen always thought that he would finish as a detective and he'd be clapped out of the station or have an honour guard or something. He just didn't go back. One day he just didn't go back. He hasn't got his board.
Yeah, wow.
The board with their bitses.
Yeah, well, they're, yep,
He's got nothing.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, you just, I know Matt thought he was a lifer. He
Yeah,
would be in
yeah.
forever, and his innate, I mean, I think that's also been something that's been interesting with this injury and this experience. You know, Matt suddenly just couldn't work,
Yeah.
and he wasn't part of anything other than his own healing. And
They have no
they've-
hobbies
no,
because
they've
they
got
have
nothing.
no time.
And it was so, I mean, that was a whole nother layer of impact and grief and trauma and confusion, not having an identity or a process, and the injury denies you. I mean, I at one point described living with Matt like living with a toddler again, because he did 50 things for 2 minutes all throughout the day and completed nothing. It was this constant keeping his mind off going to places that were infiltrating, and
Yep.
you know, it was just bang, 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 and the house would be chaos, and your life was chaos, and it was chaos, and nothing was. It was so difficult to manage, and you're trying to raise children and work full time yourself, because suddenly yours is the only income and the only sense of financial security that you have, and you have to just hold that so preciously, because you know you cannot impact, you know, the only person with a job now, and it's just so difficult. But it went from thing to thing to thing, and he just, I didn't know how to help him find a sense of purpose or connection to anything again, and that was huge. And I remember, you know, him being so lost. And when he decided that he would do the podcast, the idea had been floating around for a while, and I think he was searching as he was deteriorating silently and quietly within himself. Podcasts are a great mechanism to connect with. You can do that in the car, you know, no one knows. And I know, you know, he said he was searching, and he really only found defence, and particularly predominantly American defence kind of podcasts and stories, and they were the same but not right. And he said, I think I might just start. He said, I think it'll only be our family that'll listen to it, if that, but I think I just need to. So he did, and after he did the first episode with Bruce Cameron, he came to me and he said, I've been part of something that's separate to myself, and I can it's a tangible outcome that I can hold, and that has worth and quality and depth that is not myself. And that was so transformative in him having a drive again, of having worth, of contributing. And that's, I think, also what this walk was so much about, being part of something that's greater than yourself. That has just been extraordinary.
Because Stephen wasn't going to do it.
Well, Matt wasn't either.
No. And I said to him, I think, he said he'd just do a little bit. And I said, I think you should do the whole thing. Start to finish, you know, make it a journey, make it something. And he said, no, I can't leave you for that long. And I said, well, I'll come in at this point, and then I'll come home, and then I'll come in at this point. And I came at the first point, and the time I had with everyone there, when I left, I sort of said to them, can I come back? Can I just come back and stay? Because I need it. And that's the hardest part about being the wife. I have hideous anxiety when it comes to going to work. I don't know how to work. I don't know how to go. I'm going to work on it. I've got my psychologist, which is costing me a small fortune. And I will try, and I will do my best, but I'm exhausted. But coming on here and being with all of these people has been, apart from my kids, and I have a bit of work that's been, I feel, valued. This is the first time the police have found me valued. And I'm worthwhile. Because I said, I shouldn't really be here, because I'm not the first responder. And that's what the police have done. The hierarchy have done. They have said, you know, we're irrelevant.
Yeah,
we are completely and utterly irrelevant
Yeah.
to this injury, to his. I was the matriarch of the police family at the station Stephen was at,
Yeah.
and I nurtured the young ones that came through, and then I was thrown away, and that was really hard. So coming on the walk was like, I've got my family back.
Yes, yeah, and
It's a bit different,
yeah,
and we're all a bit broken,
yeah,
and it's wonderful.
yeah, it is. The people on this walk are extraordinary,
Yeah.
extraordinary humans, and just beautiful, beautiful souls, and the love and the compassion and the understanding,
respect.
deep respect,
Such respect.
has just been incredible, and to be enveloped in that. Yeah, I mean, I know, you know, when you joined the walk for a little while early on, and then when you contacted me and said, I'm going back, part of me just went, I am so jealous that you get to do that, you know, because the girls are so much younger and had so much on. I couldn't do that, but I'm so glad that we've been able to do this bit.
Yeah.
Because I think...
And you'll be coming in at the end?
Oh, absolutely. We were always going to be in Canberra, and I'm so excited about those final days, and I'm really excited about opening the walk up to the world, like to anyone that wants to join, anyone that's got a family member, a loved one, a friend, or that an emergency service person has touched their lives, being that moment, being that, you know, that hero in their darkest moments, to come and walk, because you know, we can't get the change that we needed and that others deserve without everyone that actually cares and values first responder service coming on board and
all the
showing
volunteer
support.
Service, all the paid service, it doesn't matter. They're all caring for everyone else.
Absolutely. Yep. And I think that's one of the things that I've also been really disappointed about is, you know, the emergency service personnel, paid and volunteer, they turn up no matter what.
Yeah.
They turn up at the worst moments. They can look at it and think,
what can I do?
But they just step in. They never turn around and say, oh, not today, not that one.
Can't handle that.
Yeah, that's too much. They just step in and they work together on scene, cross agencies, and they just support and care and do all they can to make that situation better for those that are suffering and need help. And I've really been challenged by the fact that when that service hurts them and they are the ones that say, this is my darkest moment, I'm putting my hand up now, I need help, that the whole system is geared to just say, oh, hang on.
Yeah, we need to do something for you.
Oh, not sure about that. Do you think it was? Do you think it was when your dad left? It was when you were 2 that might be the causation? I don't know whether it's
or the SES.
Were you that weak? Was it? It might be you. Might not be the service. It might not be the leadership, the culture, the management, the hierarchy of, you know, absolute barbaric neglect on positive workplace engagement. No, it might not be that. It might just be that, you know, maybe this job's not for you.
Yes.
Come on. You know, we want, and that's the other thing, you know, we want people in these services that are caring and compassionate. We
desperately want them, need them,
really
have them.
Yeah, we need people that care. We don't want robots that are untouched by this. We want people that genuinely care and connect with others, because they're the ones that will be able to do the job the best. But if we want those compassionate, kind and caring people,
we've got to support
we need
them.
to have
we've
the
got
systems.
To look after them.
And, you know, it's 2023.
Come on.
We have known so much for so long to have done so little by this date. And, you know, I know that we're walking, and this walk is so much about getting action on some of the 14 recommendations from the 2019 Senate inquiry. People behind 000, the mental health of first responders, and I live and breathe that document now.
Absolutely.
We rattle it off like it's, you know, a nursery rhyme. But you know, that's just one part. We had the Beyond Blue work before that. We've had so much work done. We already know what needs to be done. We know we need presumptive legislation in every jurisdiction for first responders.
You're going to get technical on me again.
Oh, look out. We know that we need better access throughout the career and the life of the officer. We know the connection and access to support needs to not just end when their service ends, but that that employee assistance support and program
Yeah.
needs to go right
and not
through
just
retirement.
by a counsellor who's
Yeah.
dabbled.
Yeah, and
It's got to be a professional who's worked in PTSD.
that
It's
specialises
different.
in the first responders, community and
Yep.
culture. And our children and families need to be recognised as
Yep.
we may not be the injured person, but that injury,
We are injured.
we are injured simply because we live with the injury, and the injury is so corrosive.
Yep.
And so damaging to everyone around them.
Absolutely.
And when we know that PTSD and psychological injury and depression and anxiety is so closely linked with a relationship breakdown.
Absolutely.
And yet we're provided and afforded virtually nothing. How can that be?
Yeah.
And then on the other breath, we also know that one of the most integral parts of getting well and staying well is having a supportive network.
Yeah.
Well, this injury in itself destroys often
All
any
of that
capacity
supportive
for that.
network. Yeah.
So if the injury itself we already know has that damaging and negative influence, where is the counteracting work being done
Yeah.
to ensure that we can support the people we love, because we need to stay well.
Yes.
And we need to stay whole, and we need to be seen and validated and given expert guidance and support so that we can do that work,
Yeah.
so that we can work alongside the clinical professionals to get brought in.
And, the end shot of all of that is that we will retain
Absolutely.
these caring people who have got so much experience in that job
Yeah.
instead of having them leave at such a young age.
Well, I mean, look at the just the experience and the depth of knowledge between Stephen and Matt. They're just two people that those services have lost.
Yep.
And the number of people that have reached out to Matt since he started the podcast and been on the walk, first of all, it's, I never thought it'd be you, mate.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you get that a lot, and it's like, well, it can be anyone and everyone. So
Stephen never thought it was going to be him.
No, Matt never thought it would be him. That's not a prerequisite. That's not an indicator of whether this injury will inflict itself upon you. But then there's also been, I always remember working with you. I only worked with you for 6 months.
Yeah.
But, that time with you was foundational in my early years. These are the people that we want to remain
We want to
in
keep
the
them. We
service.
want to keep them to protect our society and the things.
Yeah.
In our little moments
Yeah.
and our grief moments, that we make a difference.
Absolutely, we do.
That we make a difference in our lives and the people we touch's lives,
Yeah.
whether they like it or not.
Yeah.
And
I think to make that difference, I've had to really, really dig deep and hold true to the worth that I've known of myself and of my family and of my relationship and of Matt. And that's so easy to lose and get lost. But I've always had hope that we would get through. And I want others that are at the precipice of starting this journey that we've been on for years now. I want them to have hope that they can get through, that they can get through together, and that the life and the love and the marriage and the relationship and the parent-child dynamics and all of that is still beautiful and is still safe and can be enriching. I still want to live the rest of my life with Matt.
oh yeah, Stephen's got me for life.
Yeah, whether they like it or not, they're stuck with us.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I want people to know that you can still have all of those dreams. And as we started with, our dreams and our future and what we see of ourselves and where we go has changed from the visions that we had in those early days. But I'm still excited for what's to come, and I still have great passion and joy for the future. But we laughed deeply in amongst the 3 years. We've had those moments too. It hasn't been all heartache and sorrow and fear. We've laughed around the fire pit, and we've sung songs, and we've danced silly in the kitchen cooking dinner.
Absolutely.
And we've had those moments. They've been hard fought.
Yes.
But we've had those moments, and we've held on to those dearly, and they've
And
got us
many,
through.
many more to come.
There is plenty more to come. Absolutely.
Thanks, Chicky.
Oh, thank you.
Come here.
Yeah.
We are.
Oh. Oh. You too.
Always and forever.
Yeah, absolutely.